was 19 years old, living alone, in my very first apartment, completely alone. No safety net. I had just moved to a new city near the beach for school, far from home, far from everyone I knew. I didn't know a single soul in that place, no friends, no family, no boyfriend, no coworkers, not one person. If something happened to me in the middle of the night, there wouldn't be anyone nearby to hear me scream. No one who would even know I was missing for days. My apartment was on the second floor of a small beach community complex, isolated, quiet. A staircase led from the parking lot up to a narrow outdoor hallway with just 4 front doors. Mine was one of them. Across from my couch was a sliding glass door that opened onto a small balcony overlooking the parking lot below. At night, that balcony felt like a gateway to nowhere. Like most cheap apartments in the area, mine didn't have air conditioning. It was suffocating, brutally hot. So every evening, I left the sliding glass door cracked open to let the ocean breeze drift through. Just a little crack, but enough. At the time, it felt normal, safe even. Now, looking back years later, that decision makes my stomach turn. The first knock came on a Tuesday night around 9 p.m. 3 hard knocks, deliberate, not friendly. I checked the peephole. Nothing. Complete darkness. The second night, it happened again. Same time, same 3 knocks. Same silence when I looked. I told myself it was probably someone with the wrong apartment, a lost delivery person, something innocent. But then it happened a 3rd night, and a 4th, and a 5th. Every single night around the same time, always after dark, always when I was alone. I began keeping all the lights off in my living room, hoping whoever it was would think I wasn't home. I'd sit in the dark, waiting, listening. Then one night, everything changed. I was sitting on my couch in the dark, watching television with the volume low, the warm summer air drifting in through the partially open slider behind me. The knocking came, but this time it was different. Bang, bang, bang! So loud that the entire frame of the front door rattled violently. The whole door shook on its hinges. I muted the TV immediately. My heart was already racing. The apartment fell silent, completely silent. Then it came again, harder this time, more aggressive. Bang, 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 bang! The door frame cracked slightly. I could see it in the dim light. Then I heard a voice, a man's voice, deep, angry, certain. I know you're in there. I can see your TV light. My blood ran cold. I felt it drain from my face. I froze completely. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. The voice echoed down the entire hallway. I saw you. I know exactly where you are. Another violent pounding. The door shuddered. I know you're home. Open this door. I stared at the door from across the room. I had never heard this voice before in my entire life, not once. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one knew where I lived except my parents, and they were hours away. There was absolutely no reason why a stranger should know which apartment was mine. Yet this man sounded completely certain, not guessing, not hoping. He sounded like he knew I was inside, like he had been watching, like he had been waiting. The pounding continued. Open the door! Stop hiding from me! I know you're in there! My hands were trembling violently as I reached for my phone, but I didn't dial. I froze, listening. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. No knocking, no yelling, no footsteps walking away. Just silence. A terrible, unnatural silence. For what felt like an eternity, I sat frozen. Not moving, just listening, waiting. Then I heard it. Footsteps. But not normal footsteps. Slow, deliberate, calculated. Not walking away, walking around. I turned my head toward the sliding glass door, toward the balcony, toward that small opening I had left cracked open for fresh air. The realization hit me like ice water. Oh God, the slider is still open. The door was cracked, not wide, just maybe 6 inches, but enough. Enough for someone to listen in the darkness. Enough for someone to know with absolute certainty that I was inside. I stared into the pitch-black darkness outside that door. At first, I saw nothing but my own terrified reflection. Then, movement. A figure, standing below near the staircase, absolutely still, looking up directly at my apartment, at my balcony, at my open door. My entire body went numb. I dropped to the floor immediately, acting on pure instinct. I crawled backward, away from the couch, keeping myself below the window line, terrified that if I lifted my head even an inch, he would see me through the glass. Outside, I heard nothing, not a single sound, but somehow I could feel his presence, like an invisible weight pressing down on the apartment. Then, I heard something that still to this day makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Not another knock, not another yell. A whisper, so close, far too close, closer than it should have been possible. I can hear you breathing. I stopped breathing instantly. Every muscle in my body locked, because in that exact moment, I realized with absolute horror that the figure I had seen standing downstairs was no longer downstairs. At some point, while I was hiding on the floor, he had climbed the stairs, stepped onto my balcony, and was now standing only a few feet away from me, separated by nothing but a thin sliding glass door that I had foolishly left partially open. I don't even remember deciding to move. Survival instinct took over. Suddenly, I was on my feet, sprinting across the apartment in complete darkness. I reached the sliding door and slammed it shut with every ounce of strength I had. Crash! I twisted the lock into place as hard as I could. Then, I grabbed the wooden security dowel and dropped it into the track. Clang! The whisper stopped. Everything went silent again. For a few terrifying seconds, nothing happened. Then, bang! Something slammed against the glass with incredible force. The entire panel shook violently. I screamed before I could stop myself. Standing on the balcony was a dark figure, his face completely hidden by the darkness. One hand was pressed flat against the glass, exactly where my face had been only moments earlier. He wasn't shouting anymore. He wasn't trying to break in. He was simply standing there, perfectly still, staring directly at me through the glass. I turned and ran. I locked myself inside the bathroom, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Somehow, I managed to dial 911. The dispatcher's calm voice answered almost immediately. "Stay on the line. Officers are already on the way. You're going to be okay." But I didn't feel okay. I didn't feel safe. I was trapped inside a tiny bathroom while a complete stranger stood only a few feet away outside my apartment. Time seemed to stop. Every second felt like an hour. I sat there listening for footsteps, for glass breaking, for the sound of the balcony door opening. But none of it came. Finally, after what felt like forever, I heard voices outside. Loud voices, multiple voices. Police officers calling to one another. When they finally escorted me out, the balcony was empty. The only thing left behind was a single handprint on the glass. The man had disappeared without a trace. Officers searched everywhere. The parking lot, the nearby woods, every hallway, every stairwell. They found nothing. No witnesses, no suspects, no explanation. One officer told me they believed someone had probably been watching the apartment complex for days, maybe even weeks, learning everyone's routines, watching who came home alone, watching who had visitors, and who didn't. Somehow, he had chosen me, alone, young, vulnerable. A week later, I packed everything I owned into my car and moved out. I never spent another night in that apartment. As the years passed, the fear slowly faded. Eventually, it became something that felt more like a nightmare than a real memory. But no matter how much time passed, I never truly forgot that night. Nearly 10 years passed. Life moved on. I finished school, built a career, and eventually convinced myself that what happened that night belonged to another version of me. The fear became quieter with time, buried beneath years of ordinary life. Then, one weekend, while cleaning out an old storage box I had kept since moving from that apartment, I found a stack of faded paperwork, old utility bills, lease documents, receipts I had forgotten existed. At the very bottom was a maintenance notice, the kind apartment management used to slide underneath residents' doors. I picked it up, ready to throw it away without another thought. But as I turned it over, something caught my eye. There was writing on the back, faint pencil marks, 4 simple words written in shaky, deliberate handwriting. I finally saw you. Every ounce of warmth left my body. My hands started trembling so badly that I almost dropped the paper. I stared at those 4 words, reading them again and again, desperately trying to convince myself they meant nothing. Maybe someone had scribbled on it before I moved in. Maybe it was some strange coincidence. Maybe my mind was connecting things that were never connected at all. But deep down, I knew why those words terrified me. No one else had ever touched that notice. No one else should have had any reason to write on it, and I had never seen those words before. Suddenly, memories I had tried to bury came rushing back all at once. The knocking every night at exactly the same time, the voice outside my front door, the footsteps circling the building, the whisper outside my open balcony, and that silent figure standing only inches away behind the glass. The police had always believed he was searching for an easy target, someone young, someone living alone, someone vulnerable. That explanation had helped me sleep for years. It gave everything a reason. Until I looked at those 4 words, because they changed everything. What if he wasn't trying to figure out which apartment belonged to a random victim? What if he had already chosen me long before that night? What if every knock, every moment of silence, every step outside my apartment wasn't about finding the right door, but about making sure I was still there? I folded the paper carefully and put it back into the box. I never threw it away. I don't know who wrote those words. I don't know when they were written. And after all these years, I still don't know what that man wanted. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is completely quiet, I still catch myself listening for 3 slow knocks on the door. I still avoid leaving windows or balcony doors unlocked, no matter how hot the room becomes. Because some fears don't disappear. They wait. They hide. They follow you. And every now and then,